Today, we are honored to have with us the Chairman of the U.S. House Committee on Veterans Affairs. Representative Bob Filner graduated from Cornell University in 1963 with a degree in chemistry and earned his doctorate in history of science from the same school 6 years later. Shortly after earning his Ph.D., he moved to San Diego, becoming a history professor at San Diego State University. His long history of public service began in 1979 when his opposition to the closing of a neighborhood school led him to run for the San Diego School Board. He became president of that board 3 years later. From there, he won the job of deputy mayor. He resigned his professorship in 1992 to run for the U.S. Congress. He won and has been reelected 6 times. He was appointed to the chairman of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs in 2006 after serving as the ranking member for several years. It is my honor and distinct pleasure to introduce Representative Bob Filner from California's 51st District.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a great pleasure, it's an honor to be here with you this morning. It's very humbling, in fact, as we not only pay tribute to Frank Buckles, but to all of you who have served this nation in war and in peace, and who continue to serve our veterans by your involvement in the DAV. DAV, a great organization. I think I know everything I know because of the DAV. And your folks in Washington do an incredible job informing us. I thank especially Joe Violente for making sure that we know what we're talking about, because he tells us when we don't. I had the honor of becoming chairman of the committee just about, in the beginning of 2007. I realized what a big job I had, because I was the first Democratic chairman of the Veterans Committee since the legendary Sonny Montgomery. We all know Sonny as the, Mr. Veteran, who wrote the Montgomery GI Bill, who died just several years ago, but he was my mentor. He taught me a lot, and again, it's very humbling to follow in his footsteps. When I became chairman more than a year and a half ago, I think the VA was strained to its breaking point. You had an ongoing war in Iraq and Afghanistan. A war that, as you know, produced and still produces a great number of injuries, very serious injuries. We think of that as a very small war, but we've had over 800,000 veterans already from Iraq and Afghanistan. On the other hand, we have, and we cannot never forget, the veterans from earlier wars. One from World War I, but certainly World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Persian Gulf War I, and everything in between. The older veterans have increasing needs. The younger veterans have increasing needs. We got to serve them both. We got to serve them both with great skill and compassion, care. And I'm not sure that just as we were unprepared for the aftermath of our invasion of Baghdad, the VA was unprepared for the aftermath of that. And the resources were not in place to deal with both these populations. I had, and many of your Washington staff knows this, for the 14 years I was on the committee before I became chairman, I would wave around at every budget session the independent budget that the DAV plays a prime role in developing. A budget put together by veterans for veterans. An independent budget, a professional budget that says, what do we need to take care of all of our veterans? And I would wave that around because we never matched the independent budget. We were always $2, $3, $4 billion short. And that adds up every year. If you're going to be short one year and next year you've multiplied that shortage. Well, in the 2 years that I've been involved in the budget process as chairman, we've exceeded the independent budget both times. That is, we put the resources in place. I think we put the resources in place to do our job. The question is, and our job as an oversight committee in the Congress is to make sure the job is done right. Of course, the job will never be done right until the DAV's goal of assured funding, of mandatory funding, of the health care of our nation's veterans is put into place. We have got to have that so we get it in a timely way, and we don't have budget fights every year. You know, Democrats say one thing, Republicans another, Senate says one thing, House says another, President says something, Congress says another. Hey, all that means that you're not going to get the care you need at the time you need it. So we need that mandatory funding, and I'm committed to it, and we're going to keep working on it. The DAV has come up with, I think, maybe a so-called compromise position, but gets us to that assured funding that has to be done. And we're going to get that done. Now, you know the war that we're in is a very divisive war. It's a lot of people on both sides of the issue. The presidential campaign may be fought over that war. But I will tell you, in the Congress and in America, because I've traveled all around as chairman, no matter where we are on the war, we're going to be united in saying that every young man and woman that comes back from that war gets all the care, the love, the attention, the honor and dignity that they deserve. We're going to make sure that that occurs. And we know what happens when we don't do that in a divisive war. We know what happens to the veterans who come home, and many people who are against the war turn out to be against the warrior, or they don't distinguish the two. I was against the Vietnam War, and I tell you, I made a mistake when the young people came back. We did not treat them with the respect. In fact, there's probably most of you out there from Vietnam. We did not give you the honor and respect that you need. And I have to apologize personally, and we have to apologize for the nation, because we did not do our job. We did not do our job for you all. And hopefully we're not going to make the mistake again with these young men and women. We still got a lot to do with the Vietnam vets. You know, half of the homeless on the street tonight are Vietnam vets. That's a disgrace for America that has occurred. I'll give you an even worse statistic. As many Vietnam veterans have committed suicide than died in the original war. That means we did not do our job as a nation. And we can still say thank you in more than just words. I want to honor all the Agent Orange claims that are now facing the VA. You were there. We should care. We need to honor those now. I will tell you, I don't care if your boots were on the ground, if you were on the blue, in the blue water off Vietnam, if you were in the blue skies above Vietnam, Agent Orange probably affected you. And I'm not going to argue whether you were at that place or what time. We need to make sure that you get the care and the compensation that you deserve. And we need to do that, and I'm working on that to see if it happens, make sure it happens.